So I really appreciate everyone who stayed with us thus far. Once again, my name is Ilgar Mehti. I'm speaking from Baku, Azerbaijan. You know, the topics that we cover today are more specific, and I hope you really like them in terms of the content and the subject. My topic, though, is more of a general nature, something inspired by COVID pandemic, but at the same time, something which will really continue beyond the pandemic situation. Basically, what's going to happen, you know, normally we see that the digital transformation of a business is quite time-consuming and tedious process. So prior to COVID, we would take months and even years, depending on the size of the company and industry and customer profile and resources and security risks and all these other factors. The actual digital transformation of the business would take ages. And in those time, pre-COVID time, we would conduct some customer surveys to understand internal and external requirements, to see our operational processes, to test our systems for any pressure points. And more importantly, we would normally estimate whether or not such digital transformation is worthwhile, you know, in terms of improving our businesses, in terms of helping us to recover the investments, because the investment for digital transformation can be quite significant. But nowadays, we're not even asking any of those questions because we just jump headlong into this process, convinced that this is the right thing to do. And most of us actually convinced that this is the only thing, the necessary thing to do. Whether or not we cover our investments in the digital transformation is really not a question, because it is now a requirement. We all have to comply with this situation we're facing. So basically, what we're experiencing now is this unprecedented pressure to transform our enterprise overnight onto a new digital platform. You know, it can be done in a couple of days, it can be done in overnight, but more or less, it's not as it used to be. We have to act very fast. And basically, you know, again, this IT architecture, the complex IT architecture we used to have on the left side, more complex architecture is now itself transforming into something very simple, and from very complex approach we're switching to do it now approach. And but the key question when we're doing everything fast in every business, the key question we keep asking ourselves is, are we certain that we are capturing all our risks? Because we're just jumping headlong into this process, and because we have to, because everyone is have to do it, and we just follow the trend. But are we really capturing all our risks? And you know, as the recent trends indicated, even mighty companies such as Zoom had some security problems with their platform. They fixed it later on, but initially they faced a lot of pressure and bad publicity in the community. On the other hand, Microsoft faced a similar pressure because of the increasing number of customer headcount. No one anticipated that the products will be, the IT products will be sold out so fast, and you know, the pressure on the servers was immense. As I heard from Microsoft themselves, they had to increase their servers threefold to make sure that they meet the requirements. So that is the situation with the digital transformation before and after pandemic. And I mentioned there are some risks, and those risks lead us to some uncomfortable questions. You know, we have to ask ourselves some of these questions, you know, before transitioning our businesses into online mode. Understandably, there is no single blueprint that you can take and apply to your organization when you transform. Everyone tries to tackle their problem depending on their business needs, depending on the particulars of their industry sector, their customer base, of course, is important. Are your customers trading with you online or not? Your resources available to address this issue, both human resources as well as the financial resources. So there are a number of factors you need to consider. There is no one size that would fit all the solution here. You have to factor individual parameters. But what the pandemic did, it raised a number of uncomfortable questions, right? As we mentioned in the beginning, which we have to address if we are to succeed and if we are to manage our businesses online. For instance, one of the the first questions is, we keep saying that we'll go back to office, but then do we really have to go back to office? Are we sure that we need to go back to the office? Because some very large organizations that I know of already decided that they will cut down their physical premises. They will introduce the notion of hot desks, where there will be desks in the offices will be not assigned to particular individual employee, but will be just basically available for anyone on a first come first served basis. And that again implies that some employees, some positions, some departments, they will not be required. Their physical presence will not be required in the offices anymore. They can be supervised remotely. They can report remotely. They can handle their tasks remotely. And this enables, especially the large companies who are spending a lot of funds on physical office premises. So this option enables them to cut some of their costs by switching to hot desk strategy. In some companies, I heard even as far as 1/3 of their existing, actually today, existing office premises will be cut by at least 1/3 when they switch back to offline office regime. So this is one element. Another element that the COVID-19 is bringing us is basically gives us the glimpse of future. Now that we have all experienced this fancy sensation of working from home, very easy environment, is it really easy now to switch back to office environment? And if we can handle our products through a digital platform, maybe we should continue doing so. But then the key question is this: is everything really digitizable? Is all products that we produce, all the services that we deliver, can we really transform them all onto the digital platform? And unfortunately for some of us, the prevailing answer seems to be that definitely yes. For all of our products and services, we should now have their virtual, their online equivalents. And this is just the factor of life that we need to adjust ourselves to. Which then leads us to the next question: how certain are we that all our pertinent risks are under control? Because if we're transferring our traditional products, making them available online, especially now we have people from professional services community, the lawyers and related professionals, usually prefer to follow the traditional, face-to-face service delivery. Now, if we're doing this predominantly online, are we addressing all the risks? because we're really just switching it in a very radical, in a very speedy fashion. That's the only element. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. The only element is that we're doing it in a very speedy fashion. Some other areas, some other risks we are facing, or maybe the new dimensions of the pre-existing risks that we are facing during the pandemic and immediately after that, is of course our supply chains. Because the borders are closed, we're not getting our products on time, and that's causing some discomfort. Data security risks, of course, are increasing rapidly simply because we started using more of the data. Take this video conferencing as one example. And as I mentioned, even huge companies such as Zoom are apparently exposed to data security risks. Right, so a risk factor is fundamentally important in managing your business online. Another thing when it comes to online management of your business is you really need to ask yourself, which, a seemingly obvious question, but you really need to ask yourselves, are we going to be serious about this? Because one thing is when you do your business management in a traditional way, more robust, more tested methodology. Another thing is when you're trying to be online, you really have to take it serious. Because unless you are meticulous, unless you are persistent enough in pursuing these routine tasks, you're not gonna succeed. And routine tasks like you have to update your website regularly, you have to post your news regularly, you have to be in contact with your customers, you have to, I don't know, use mail campaigns, you communicate with staff, which is also a factor now. Previously, we are all based in one location, now we are all remote. So how do you communicate with your staff is becoming fundamentally important. And these are, again, very seemingly routine, mundane tasks, but at the same time, they are fundamentally important now. So unless you take them serious and unless you tackle them in a serious way, you're not going to succeed. And actually, I was reading one study by McKinsey, which states that during this pandemic and immediately after that, the key factor for us to survive is going to be resilience. Resilience in terms of, being passionate, being active in implementing all this kind of digital transformation tools that we keep talking about. And finally, our office protocols, are no longer relevant. We are remotely located. We are working from remote locations, all of our employees, all of our staff. So we need to build a whole new set of working etiquette, working mentality. And that can be, again, quite fundamental. I'm not only talking about simple processes and procedures, not, for instance, using this platform as Zoom, you have to have your name correctly stated on the screen. You have to have your titles and everything correctly mentioned. Those are, again, seemingly routine, mundane tasks, but fundamentally important. But I'm also talking about potentially in the long term, you are changing the whole corporate culture in the organization, which is, far bigger problem to handle, far bigger challenge to handle compared to all of the above issues that we discussed. So basically, yes, we are switching to new next normal. Yes, we have to do that because it's now becoming the new norm. But then there are really fundamental questions that we need to ask ourselves, and moreover, we need to take them serious. And so since we're talking about this, okay, managing your business online, but what are those basics, of online business management? Well, first and foremost, of course, we're talking about those very tools that we are currently using here ourselves, the various video conferencing collaboration tools. Of course, we have a lot of options, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meetings, and many other. No need to reference them here, but only just for the sake of illustration only. And each of these tools, of course, have their pros and cons. And they're discussing their features is beyond my presentation. But what I'm trying to emphasize, the time you spend at the select phase is time well spent, because what really happens once you choose the right product, it is very difficult then to switch, because the switching costs, the switching efforts can be really painful. And I can use my own example. In my own organization, we have, after a series of tests and trials, we decided to pick Microsoft Teams as our collaboration tool, partly because it is, Microsoft product and it can easily integrate with other Microsoft tools, and of course that's important. So we did that, and then later on you discover that not all your clients are using Teams. They don't have it installed, or for some other reasons they use other tools. Doesn't matter. You have to communicate with your client. So turns out you have to also get a license for Zoom. So you have to invest in two different protocols. You have to keep them live, at least for some time. Because you want to maintain interaction with your clients, and the free licenses that are available, they are fundamentally limited in many ways. So you have to have a paid license. So that means additional investment. So the selection of the right collaboration tool is fundamentally important. This cannot be overestimated. Again, speedy internet goes like, very apparent and obvious thing to state. But again, previously we looked at it as a nice to have feature, but now it's becoming a fundamental prerequisite. A lot of participants even today, they are asking, so what are the key issues to consider when you set up your business online? Well, here it is, very fast, very speedy internet connection, simply because you are online now. You are almost 100% online now. You are exchanging more data. We're using video conferencing, which is a huge pressure on our traffic. So, speedy internet is no longer an optional. It's becoming a prerequisite for success. So you have to have it. That's goes without saying. Likewise, use of analog telephone lines. Again, while still these analog lines are still relevant, I'm not saying they are entirely outdated, but then in all likelihood, they will be replaced with speedy voice over internet protocols of one sort or another. There are all kinds of abbreviations, acronyms used in telephony. It's quite confusing. Really, even for professionals. I speak with a number of them, but it's very, very, really difficult to pick the right one. And I should tell you, they are not cheap. But then the problem is, the nice feature, the upside is, you can now receive calls made to your office line. You can receive them through your computer. You can receive them via your mobile phone and address them in a speedy way, so that the client satisfaction levels remain untouched. So that helps you to maintain the standard communication with your client, which is really, really important. So on the marketing side, you have to adopt what is called an integrated marketing strategy, basically encompassing everything. Your offline and your online marketing strategy is not a one thing. You have to consider all aspects. You have to, things like, again, website content and customer communication, mailing campaigns, and managing your leads, which are coming through online now. How are you going to manage your leads? How are you going to transfer them into into clients, into sales, how you're going to address your social media. And again, that leads us to last but not least, our online reputation. We briefly mentioned that in Elixir presentation from another aspect. Now, if you look at the traditional things, you know, when you go onto the website, check for your own company, you often, you often see the rankings, the Google reviews for one business, and you know, this is now becoming important because that's probably the only feedback the clients are going to get, because there is no physical interaction, at least for some time now. So that online Google reviews, which we all previously tended to, I wouldn't say ignore, but we didn't really spend enough time on improving those, is now becoming more critical. And again, I'm using this example of my own company. It's an inadvertent advertisement here, for which I apologize. But the thing is, you know, when in our own specific example, we had one particular negative feedback from one gentleman based in India. And we didn't really know what's happening. We tried to reach out to him to find out his reasons for his negative feedback, because we didn't have any clients in India, but the feedback is there. So one fundamental problem with these Google reviews, you have absolutely no control over it. And it can get really nasty. It's difficult to fix it, but you have to do something about it. As I said in our previous slide, you have to take these things serious now. They feature everywhere. You know, you do a Google search, it pops up, and then it gives you the first impression about the company. Same is in the Google Maps. You know, it's better to have the company name and tag, and even in such things as taxi services. You know, it's again small things, but they do really impact your online reputation. They give the glimpse of the company's presence in the market. Again, as I said, this is a very generic topic, nothing cast in stone, not a rocket science, very basic concepts, but some of my observations also based on our practice and based on our failures, which I thought you might find interesting.